Allagash Abductions by Michael Lauck. Four friends studying at Massachusetts College of Art, Chuck Rack, Charlie Foltz, and the twins, Jim and Jack Weiner, set out from Boston for a wilderness vacation in late August of 1976. They were dropped off in northern Maine by a pontoon plane and canoed through the Allagash Waterway. On the night of Thursday, August 26, the men, all art students, were night fishing on Eagle Lake. In order to easily find their way back to their campsite in the dark, they had prepared a large bonfire as a beacon to mark their camp. Shortly after they began trout fishing, a glowing oval-shaped object was spotted rising above the forest. Charlie Foltz signaled to the object with a flashlight, which apparently caused it to stop its ascent and slowly move towards the student's canoe. The object was very bright, with 4 sections of light. It was obviously not a conventional aircraft, and any notion of a natural phenomenon was dispelled when a blue ray, which created an illuminated circle on the ground or water it hit, was projected toward the startled men. They frantically paddled back to their camp. They were relieved to find, once they had landed, that the unidentified flying object was drifting away from them. Puzzling, though, was the fact that their bonfire was now reduced to coals. It had only been a few minutes since they had set out, and the bonfire had been expected to burn for hours. The men were stunned by what they had seen, later recollecting that they had just stood silently as if they were in shock. The next morning they broke camp and headed home. The story picks up after several years later when Jim Weiner suffered a head injury in a fall resulting in a form of epilepsy. The doctors treating his new condition wanted to know of any possible symptoms, including any possible previously undiagnosed symptoms. He told them of waking up to the feeling that he was levitating over his bed, and that other times he woke up surrounded by strange beings with large eyes. According to Raymond E. Fowler in his book, The Allagash Abductions, Jim's doctors suggested that he contact UFO researchers after hearing of his symptoms and his 1976 encounter, although some maintain that it was Weiner who brought up the work of John E. Mack on the abduction experience to his doctor's attention. Either way, Jim contacted UFO researcher Raymond Fowler after a lecture. Fowler, a MUFON investigator, initiated an inquiry into the men's experience with the assistance of physicist David Webb and hypnotist Anthony Constantino. Finding answers with hypnosis. The 4 men discovered that each, unbeknownst to the others, had been plagued with nightmares since their 1976 UFO sighting. Soon the investigation included all 4. Each was convinced to undergo hypnosis sessions with Anthony Constantino. Through these sessions, a new narrative of the sighting emerged. Each man had been struck by a blue tube of light emitted by the craft, which transferred them into the UFO. They were unable to resist the will of the occupants of the craft, as if they were under some sort of mind control. Each undressed and was given a physical examination, which included taking samples of body fluids and tissue. After the examinations were over, they were marched to a portal which returned them, via the blue tube of light, to their canoe. It also came into light that during the hypnosis sessions that the twins, Jim and Jack Weiner, had experienced alien interactions since childhood. They had also been abducted since their camping trip. The more recent abductions also included Jim Weiner's wife, Mary. An abduction experience in the late 1980s left Jim Weiner with at least 1 scoop and scar mark and a sudden tumor or mass on one leg. This was removed, and because it had literally appeared overnight, sent to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for analysis. Raymond Fowler's attempt to find the result of the analysis resulted in the discovery that the mass had actually been sent to an Air Force colonel in Washington, D.C., not Atlanta, Georgia, where the CDC is located. He was unable to obtain any information about where the sample was sent or stored after that, or even any test results. Criticism of the Allagash abduction. After Raymond Fowler's book, Allagash Abductions, the case grew in prominence. The case was also studied by Dr. John E. Mack, who spoke in favor of the men's story when it was featured on the NBC television show Unsolved Mysteries in 1994. It would later be featured in an episode of the History Channel's show UFO Files. Critics have suggested the men's sightings was actually a result of an area searchlight. The explanation was given by a park ranger the day after the encounter. It has further been suggested that the abduction experience was actually drawn from memories of television shows or movies and created, perhaps unintentionally, by Anthony Constantino's hypnosis session. It has been pointed out that their alleged experience did occur in the wake of the Travis Walton abduction, and the media attention it received may have been a factor in creating the memories. There have also been charges that the story was simply a hoax created to attract attention and to sell the UFO abduction-related art. All four men continued to maintain the truth of their story. For further information, Raymond E. Fowler, The Allagash Abductions, is available as a book on Amazon.